Beyond knowledge management, there's been an interest in hyper-personalization, and which takes from a little bit from knowledge management, but it also gets into the realm of combining knowledge management with analytics and real-time analytics of the environment of customer data and bringing all of those together in a way that actually humans or with the existing tools we have cannot do. Multimodal is a big emergent area, and with the models that I showed, so there's large language models, we have image models like DALI. There's also, emergent abilities for vision that the model can see and tell you what's happening in the image. So those are some very powerful ways where we really start stepping towards a way of giving your application a full understanding of the environment in which a customer or your employee is operating on.
Synthedia.
Mona Whalin from at Microsoft Azure. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great seeing everyone here and listen to a bunch of great talks since this morning. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we've had a lot, and you get to bring it home, because I think that there's this whole idea that like OpenAI in a lot of ways popularized this market. And I think of Azure as scaling this market. And you might be refining it a little bit too, which we can talk about a little bit later. But I know you've got some things to present, so I want to give you an opportunity to do that. Mona is the product manager for Azure OpenAI Service, and that is the way that many thousands, I've seen the number 4,500, but we'll call it, it's larger than that now, I'm sure. Many thousands of companies are accessing production grade OpenAI GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 models. So I can see your presentation. It's on the screen. So I think I'll just let you take it away.
Sounds good. So I'm really excited to share with you some of the LLM innovations and capabilities that we've been coming up with at Microsoft and Azure OpenAI. This is in line with Brad's talk from this morning, where Bing Chat is actually one of our customers. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we use OpenAI service to scale the models and capabilities of all the enterprises that are developing their apps using our models. So I'm going to cover four things, starting with giving you a little bit of insight into how the Copilot ecosystem has evolved. What does the Azure AI portfolio look like? Then move that on to what is really behind the scenes. I'll give you an insight into the Azure OpenAI Service, our cutting edge models, as well as some of the features and solutions that are helping enterprises to develop more robust AI application ecosystems. And then finally, I'm going to dive deep into a few of the valuable use cases that we've been seeing with our customers, as well as what are we doing on the responsible AI side, which comes up a lot in our customer conversations. So let's start with the journey of how did we get here. And Microsoft, as most of us know, is not new to this, and neither is AI. With the development of AI dating back to the 50s and there being a long winter, the pace has been accelerating a lot more in recent years, starting with modern deep learning in 2012, and then the second breakthrough for LLMs, which came with the Transformative paper in 2017. And what changed really with generative AI and the GPT models was an understanding of making the models think as opposed to just analyze and produce an output. And then layering that with a conversational interface just made it way more popular with the consumers, and also in turn with enterprises who are looking to improve their customer service or their automation processes with these GPT models. Overall, the partnership between Microsoft and OpenAI aims to accelerate the development of all of these advanced AI technologies that are coming to the market. One of my roles at Microsoft is how do we democratize AI? How do we bring the power of these models in the hands of not just developers and data scientists? That is no longer our only target audience. We are looking at anybody who can be a developer. We're looking at English or natural language to turning out to be a way for people to code and develop their own apps. So everything that you see through the lens of this partnership is, yes, starting with how do we support enterprise developers and data scientists, but how do we take that and make AI more accessible to a wider range of developers and organizations? With Azure OpenAI itself, some of these models, which I'm going to talk about later, include all of our chat completions models, GPT-4, 3.5 Turbo, the new generations of models for image generation, such as DALL-E, as well as Whisper. So this is what we have today, but every month and with passing day, we have newer generations of these coming up, as well as new tools and capabilities to have developers access these models efficiently. So to introduce you to a little bit about how the Microsoft and Azure AI Stack works together, you can see here that if we start from the top, we have a layer of applications, and this includes Microsoft 365. So you would have used Office or Dynamics 365, which has its range of enterprise applications and this productivity suite. And building on top of that, we have the AI builder layer, which involves what are the tools that would be used to power the Office apps or the Dynamics apps. And these are essentially low code or no code builder tools that enable the end-to-end scenarios that you actually see in the layer above it. All of these, then, the top two layers run on state-of-the-art scenario-based services as well as models. So you can see, there's when we think about building co-pilots and chatbots, a lot of our customers use cognitive search or bot service, or if they are, let's say, trying to read PDFs or multimodal documents, they are using things like document intelligence, and then combining that with AI models, including the ones from Azure OpenAI Service, which you can see in the fourth layer here. They're able to design these applications in a way that matches their expertise, as well as their ability to flexibly choose which model, which service meets the enterprise needs best. And finally, all of these layers run on a massive scale Azure ML platform, which also actually provides not just the foundation for all of these tools and models to run, but also for advanced users and ML pros to come in and fine tune their models and use more advanced tools for those interested in machine learning. So by embracing all of these built-in tools that you are actually using and that our customers are actually using to develop better creative apps, things with more productivity, there's a Copilot for every single Microsoft cloud experience today. We started with the GitHub Copilot, which became generally available in October. And since then, we've been bringing this AI technology to every single Microsoft cloud experience. And all of this is grounded in the intention that we want to empower knowledge workers. We want to bring in Copilots to transform business applications, when we want to enable anyone and everyone to use the existing low-code, no-code solutions instead of just going ahead and wanting to fine-tune or implementing a RAG approach on any of these models. So it's time to develop your own custom copilots. And with these large language models and all of the tools that I showed you in the previous slides, one of my group's ambition is that we should be getting these tools in the hands of as many people as possible. So whether you want to work with the foundation models directly, use our existing AI infrastructure, or maybe you have your data that you want to ground your application on, what prompts you want to use, and maybe you build your own plugin for your own application, and then you bring all of this together to develop your own custom copilot. So all of this combined with our built-in safety system and responsible AI tools are what distinguishes this from all of the other service providers in this area, as well as Microsoft's deep expertise in the area of enterprise excellence for developing apps. Moving on to models and Copilot capabilities. So there's been tremendous infrastructure advances in the last several years, and which have enabled not just Microsoft, but all of the players in this market to build and train and operate these powerful AI models. What you're seeing here in this graphic shows the evolution of these models over the past 5 years or so, expressed by the size of the model that you can see here in parameters. So when you read this chart and as you go up and right, you can see the larger the training data set, the larger the model will be in terms of its GPU footprint, and that directly shows how powerful that model is. So if you look at the snapshot of this of the market right now, there's OpenAI and Microsoft, combining, our partnership. We're providing the best LLM on the market, which is meeting customer needs, arguably better than most LLMs. However, we are aware of all of the other models in the market. There's Anthropic, there's Meta's Llama, and interestingly, we also have experiences coming up that will build on top of these open source models or other models and bring this into the model garden or the model ecosystem, so that customers have a way to choose any of these models and not just the GPT based ones. So where are we? So these models pretty much know everything about everything. It's the knowledge of the world. They work in multiple languages, and they're multimodal, which means that they can analyze and generate text. They can generate code. They can generate images and videos, and even redesign their apps in ways that was not possible in the past. And this is just an example of how powerful GPT-4 is. And when you look at how GPT-4 performed on standardized tests, you can see it absolutely crushes them. Just take a look at these numbers, right? A 5 on the AP Bio exam and a 90th percentile on the SATs. OpenAI can easily get into Stanford, it seems. There's also the scoring on LSAT and the bar exam. One would think, why would anyone even want to go to a law school anymore? It's pretty amazing. So when we look at all of these and we try to benchmark how are these models performing year over year, and with every single model that we are launching with OpenAI, we want it to be a step change from already exists. And the best part of this is there is concentrated push towards support, towards developing better infrastructure to support these large language models. And the clouds are taking advantage of it, and which is why it explains it caught the fire like it did with ChatGPT reaching 100 million users in 2 months. And the reason behind this was actually not just services like Bing Chat and services like Azure OpenAI powering Bing Chat, but also the change in the way conversational interfaces were designed. In my opinion, that is what really ignited the interest in large language models and what it powers. So this is what the Azure OpenAI service provides here. There's a lot more that the service provides, but we have the GPT-4 3.5 Turbo as the two most powerful models, along with Whisper, which is our transcription and translation model, and DALL-E, which is the generative image model. All of this are used by Copilot builders to get from proof of concept to production scale at ease, and then combining that with using your enterprise data, functions and plugins, which is another way of augmenting your app with your enterprise's data, and provision throughput, which essentially is an offering that lets you build scale production-ready apps with a guaranteed throughput, with a guaranteed latency in a very easy way. So all of this combined is basically our offering to enterprise customers, large customers to startups, anybody who's looking to get their generative AI apps in deployment mode from the get-go. I often get asked this question around the differences between 3.5 versus Turbo, and then in the future there'll be 5 or 6. So how do we pick which model to use? It's easy to say that hey, it's GPT-4, it's the next level in text generation. It can understand. It is more factual, better reasoning capabilities. It is more creative, and it has that nuanced understanding of language that we've never really seen from any other models before. So the kind of use cases that we see here are twofold. One is applications in the area of creative content, and where a more nuanced understanding of the subject is needed is very helpful. So think about use cases in healthcare or in legal, where there's like tons and tons of data, and an understanding of the complexity of data is very much underlined, is where GPT-4 really, really shines. 3.5 is a great model. It's more economical. It is sort of a bridge between 3 and 4, and we've seen it being used for a large range of use cases, especially in areas of high volume use, where we know that we need a certain level of verbosity that's needed from the model. but we also know that it is slightly deterministic in nature. And both of these models are optimized for inference time and performance, but the cost for GPT-4 is really XXX. And with experimentation for your specific use case, you'll see what works best for you and your unit economics. Let me introduce you to a few of the top use cases that we are seeing with Microsoft and OpenAI customers. And over the last year or so, we worked with thousands of customers, and we've basically seen 4 categories of business problems that people come to us to solve with OpenAI models. The first one is they say, hey, we have this productivity, it's lagging, it's great, but we have to hire more humans. We have to train them, and we're trying to shorten that time of what it takes to get done, especially some of these repetitive things. And there's this need for process automation, which is usually seen in a lot of industries where there's a need for processing a lot of data, as well as a human being always in the loop who's trying to accelerate their own speed of work. This next one is the one that comes up the most often, and the one we see where there's the most opportunity for application of generative AI models, which is around improving customer experience. Because these new models have a better level of thinking and expressing themselves, as well as reasoning capabilities, they've been very useful in helping customers really trying to figure out what are some of the ways that they can improve their customer experience. And then the last one is around creative content creation. So today, content creation for, let's say, sales or marketing, you basically try to get an agency. You'd probably have a whole art team developing images, marketing collateral, copywriting, etc. So interestingly, this is the category that actually started garnering the most interest when GPT models came out. But interestingly, it has shifted more towards the right, where we are seeing that people are looking at it as more of an improved customer experience and productivity improvements. So some of the solutions around improving productivity are mostly around augmenting data and getting knowledge insights from existing system of records. Trend forecasting is another great one in the financial services industry, where you're able to look at historical data, past analysis, and then come up with reasoning and insights on top of that. Code generation and report summarization are also two we see often, but we usually see them earlier in the exploration of AI apps, and which usually go on to RAG implemented approaches in the future. Process automation is more around document processing, fraud detection, workflow management. Improving customer experience, a lot of this work comes from any big enterprise that is either working with an existing ISV or a contact center to improve their existing customer experience, or they have their own built-in serviced contact centers. So we're looking at improving how customers interact with agents, with employees. How do we shorten the time between the time to first contact to the time to resolution, a lot of which comes from the ability to summarize calls better, the ability to inject the right kind of prompts to the agent that's helping the employee, as well as advanced call analytics, which happens during the call as post calls, which improves the overall performance of customer service team. And then lastly, like I mentioned, with creative content, it's a lot of interest around personalized content generation on top of just generating interesting imagery and art, which would involve bringing in customer liked images or copyright, and then the model trying to understand what is it that really worked with customers the last campaign versus what didn't work, and using that to inform future campaigns. And with all 3 of these, customers are generating new revenue streams. They are delivering differentiated customer experiences, especially through hyper-personalization. And then they're also able to modernize internal processes. A quick look at some of the advanced use cases, and a lot of these are in line with what I mentioned previously. But telecom, manufacturing, and automotive are some of the industries where we are seeing advanced experimentation and an ability to go from POC to scale productions in a number of ways. So some of these include content creation, improving media workflows, summarization, and then technical chat enabled technical support is a big one. Gathering customer insights is an interesting one where we are seeing an ability uh, for customers to use more advanced language models, especially for the insights-based use cases. And for the automotive industry, it's again similar to manufacturing, but there's one of the most interesting industrial use cases is the smart incident manager, where again, based on reasoning and insights ability of the model, customers are able to see how to better manage incidents in their factories or in their industrial properties worldwide. So with these models having access to vast amounts of your information, how do you differentiate the application you're building? What would it look like if everybody's building the same application? And this is where your data becomes super valuable, because despite the extensive knowledge, these large language models really have limitations. First, the knowledge is stale, and they're only trained for up to a certain point of time, which in OpenAI's case is 2021. So with these models only have access to public information, but they lack knowledge about anything that is behind corporate firewalls, private data, or anything that's specific to your use case or industry. So we need a way to combine these general reasoning abilities of LLMs with information that's specific to business use cases. And the way we do that is we have something called retrieval augmentation generation, which enables your model to search your data and uses your data to answer a question. And you can use this to train it on your internal knowledge databases, your operational data, structured, unstructured sources, even call center transcripts is an example of that. And uh, you can use all of this to ensure that your data is fresh, it's accurate, it's more relevant to the questions that your customers are asking, and also to a large extent reduces hallucinations that these models come up with. So we have the foundational models, which are the OpenAI models. We have our data, and then we get into the realm of prompting and crafting a prompt, which is basically a way for you to instruct the model that can vary the response. And the tone or the style of these responses, some of the examples of which you're seeing here, basically give instructions to the model in natural language and helps you guide its behavior. Prompt engineering in itself has become a field in itself, and one of the new jobs that have come out of this generative AI revolution, which is your ability to use English language to be able to prompt this model to do things that you want it to do and to modulate its behavior. So if you have your data, if you have a great understanding of how to prompt the model, that is what is your differentiation for your application as well as your enterprise. And this is where we say that, let us take care of all the advanced safety systems and foundational models from our side, and empower you to use your prompting and data in the future. So
Yeah,
so this is our
this
product
is
offering.
this is great, Mona, and I love that that we've been able to get this background, because I think a lot of people are familiar with OpenAI, but aren't as familiar with all the different wrappers that
Mhm.
you have through Azure. And I had a couple of questions for you about this that I sort of want to go into, but I did want to let you sort of finish up this slide first. So why don't you go through what you want to do
Yeah.
here? And I have a question about this, and then a couple others that I wanted to get to.
Yeah, let me actually run through a recorded video for the OpenAI RAD, which is essentially 80% of use cases that we see on OpenAI today.
Exactly.
We are now announcing a new capability in Azure OpenAI Service, which allows organizations to use Azure OpenAI models on their own data. With just a few clicks, you can run these cutting-edge models on your own data. This means that businesses can create applications that base responses on their own organizational data with natural language processing. Once ready, you can deploy a Power Virtual Agent bot and share it with your users and customers. Plus, businesses can use these models to chat, view data citations, and customize chat experiences based on their data. Azure OpenAI Service makes it easy for developers to deliver the best business solutions and personalized experiences for end users in a safe and compliant way. Visit aka.ms/AOAI service to learn more and apply for access to Azure OpenAI Service.
Yeah, so that's our hardest product. Obviously, after the OpenAI models, that's basically helping enterprises do more with their customers, with their applications, with their services.
Absolutely. All right. Well, why don't you pull that down? We'll wrap this up with just a couple of moments to chat. Um, One of the obvious questions. There's a couple obvious questions I think people have. So the first one I wanted to get you to have a chance to answer is, why would you decide to go with Azure OpenAI Service versus direct to OpenAI? So what is the decision process that people have?
Yeah, it's one we get asked often, and I would say that there is a lot of overlap between the customers that we target for both of our services. For OpenAI, what we have seen is if you are primarily in the earliest stage of your product development, where you're focusing on research, experimentation, or basically exploring the capabilities of what can you do with these models, you go to OpenAI. Now, that's not to say that Azure OpenAI doesn't provide that ability for you to experiment, but we've seen that if you're like in the POC stage or you're early, especially if you're coming from academia, OpenAI is excellent. For Azure OpenAI, what we're providing is enterprise grade security and compliance. We're providing scalability. We have solid content safety models, which will make sure that whatever customers see, if you're deploying it to like millions of users, they don't see something that they are not. And we're also enabling you to integrate with basically all of the Azure services and Microsoft services that I covered earlier. So in a nutshell, I would say like if your idea is more towards experimentation for the next 6 to 8 months, you want to see what these models can do, go to OpenAI. For scale deployment, for if you're looking for more of a managed service approach, people usually come to us, especially given how new things are and there's considerations around throughput and latency, and we understand capacity management really well. We have our own fleet of GPUs, so all of that combined makes us really attractive to large enterprises.
Yeah, that resonates with me. I mean, that's what I would have expected. And in fact, people have asked me, and that's essentially the way I've talked to them about it. If you're experimenting, it doesn't matter. You can go either place. It's like, it's not, it doesn't make that much of a difference. But I think OpenAI builds models. They don't provide scalable computing systems. And so if I'm going to production and, for example, uptime, SLAs, other types of things are really important to me. Latency might be another big one. I'm probably going to Azure. Another question that's come up a few different times, and you touched on this briefly, but GPT 3.5, GPT 4. I'm interested in the difference in like thinking about what you think or how you consult with people in terms of how to choose between them. So we have a cost difference. We also have a latency difference. And I feel like the quality of GPT-4 is tremendous, but because of cost and latency, it's actually completely inappropriate for a lot of use cases. I don't know, like, but that's me. I'm sitting on the outside. You're on the inside. Like when people ask you this, like, or when you're counseling them, what do you say?
I usually ask folks to start off with experimenting. First, are trying to understand what the use case is, and then using both of these models to just start off with prompt engineering and seeing what is working, right? So that kind of like focused approach and trying to design prompts for their use case and seeing what works, usually for most of the part gives people an understanding of what kind of quality they can get for a set of prompts that they are probably seeing would be like, let's say 80% of what they'll be using in their applications. When using GPT-4, the biggest consideration is, of course, like cost and latency. And there's significant time to be saved as well as cost to be saved if you can just look at, let's say, 3.5 turbo with something like RAG and using that to address your use case. So because a lot of this is coming down to capacity and latency versus the quality that you want to provide, the guidance is always start with prompt engineering, for both of these, see what works for you, then try or drag, and see how is the result changing over time. And then, then based on that and based on what you're seeing in your experimentation environment, we're able to work with the customer to give them a recommendation.
Got it. And you mentioned RAG, which is basically retrieval augmented generation, which is really the
Mhm.
knowledge management solutions. We've heard this referred to as search earlier today as well, but it's searching against a database to get answers, and like it's super powerful. You said it's 80% of the applications or the use right now, and that makes total sense to me based on what I've heard. And I'm glad you're able to affirm that. After that, what are maybe two that sort of seem like they've got some popularity behind them?
What are, sorry, Red,
What
I
are
didn't
some
hear.
other use cases beyond
Yeah.
beyond the knowledge management system?
Beyond knowledge management, there's been an interest in hyper-personalization, and which takes from a little bit from knowledge management, but it also gets into the realm of combining knowledge management with analytics and real-time analytics of the environment of customer data, and bringing all of those together in a way that actually humans, or with the existing tools we have, cannot do. Multimodal is a big emergent area, and with the models that I showed, so there's large language models, we have image models like DALI. There's also, emergent abilities for vision that the model can see and tell you what's happening in the image. So those are some very powerful ways where we really start stepping towards a way of giving your application a full understanding of the environment in which a customer or your employee is operating on. So see, hear, talk, are three of the common, like the cognitive abilities. So this is where we're trying to, we're going beyond language, and we're trying to bring all of that together in a way that's like very easy for users, for developers to put in the application.
Well, and you mentioned that that Bing Chat, Brad Abrams from Microsoft and leads that team, is one of your clients. Essentially, he runs on this. Really interesting that you just talked about the hyper personalization. Maybe we'll wrap up on this. So, in other words, basically, someone can create a Bing Chat like experience, and the orchestration that you have is part of the as part of the platform. You can
Yeah.
actually hit other systems to pull in data and context around the individual, I guess the session, probably the topic, and you can create in real time some sort of customized experience based on all those contextual signals.
Yeah, all of it. And it's interesting because there's all this talk about this LLM prompting, and now there's LLM orchestration, which is coming up in a big way. But um, enabling all of this, and all of the, especially the multimodal use cases I talked about earlier, is like very, very critical to all of the orchestration tools that we're building. So let's say on one hand, you start with the design and development, right? Where you start with prompt engineering, you're trying to extend the capability through RAG, and then there's this ability almost in the uh, in the vein of CI/CD, where you want to like quickly test, debug, run, and evaluate with your own data, see what works or not, what doesn't work, throw it out, and also enable the system itself to learn over time with minimal human intervention. So those are some of the things that we're actively looking into. The group is researching on, and then the evaluation part of it is one that's coming up in a big way. Within orchestration, is there a way for users, for a developer to say, hey, dynamically, help me choose what model I can use for this specific use case, for my cost, for all, with all things considered, right? There's a ton of innovation that is coming up in this area, and I just think that it's going to just like improve that life cycle of AI development, just like 10x with everything that's coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been fascinating, Mona. I really appreciate you taking so much time. How should people follow up with you to learn more or get
Yeah,
involved? You start using the systems?
yeah. I have some resources. I'm going to share the links here, and please reach out on LinkedIn. The Azure OpenAI Service has a very active news feed, and the best way to learn about the enterprise space and for you to start developing your co-pilots is just to dive right in. We have all of the resources for you to learn about the space, to learn about prompting and orchestration, and start building something of your own apart from being a consumer in this space.
Well, and I love the Copilot reference right at the end. Satya Nadella said just a few months ago, AI is all around us. We've been using it for many years, but it's been in the background, no human in the loop. You didn't have any say in how it was used. Now in the Copilot era, there is a human in the loop. We can use it. We can be more productive. The people who provide us with services can provide better services to us. And so it's really fascinating. It's like been great to have you here because obviously Microsoft has been one of the key leaders in the space.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still early days, and there'll be a step change every month for the next many years. Really
Absolutely.
excited.
And it must be nice to be doing this from a leading market share position. So great to have you here, Mona. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Synthedia, the business and technology of generative AI. Generative AI, synthetic media, large language models, image generators, virtual humans, voice clones, deepfakes, ChatGPT, and more.